There ain't no crystal ball for lonely fools about to fall. He's always had a way to find the words. He lowered your defenses, dropped your guard and lose your senses. He's owned you heart and soul for far too long. Wrapped you up without a key. You are blind and you don't see through your pain. Isn't it time to find your way home? Your peace will come when your demons are gone. Have no fear of being alone. Take your time, come into your own, into your own. Yeah, 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 yeah. You never knew that you could feel this free, like a bird out of a cage. Moving on, you've turned the page. Sometimes love is just a ball and chain that drags you out and holds you under, tears you up and makes you wonder what for. Isn't it time to find your way home? Your peace will come when your demons are gone. Have no fear of being alone. Take your time, come into your own, into your own. There's an angel on your shoulder. Let her mend your broken heart. Let her pull the house together. Turn the page on a brand new start. Isn't it time to find your way home? Your peace will come when your demons are gone. Have no fear of being alone. Take your time, come into your own. Have no fear. Whoa, yeah. Take your time. Have no fear. Whoa, whoa, yeah. Take your time. Oh, let's bring it home. Yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you.
And welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of Guitar Tales. My name is Dave Cohen. As I say every episode, we are thrilled to be here. This has been a wonderful journey we've taken together. We are just about at 900 followers on Facebook. If you like the show, do us a little favor and do yourself a favor. Follow us on YouTube. It really helps a lot. Subscribe. And my guess is Monica, as I always say, she'll write down here. She will put a little logo that says subscribe. That helps us a lot. Follow us on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Thanks to Scott, guitarist Engel, our wonderful publicist extraordinaire. We are now on iTunes, so you could talk to your best friend Siri and say, hey Siri, find us Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen as a podcast, and she'll just load it up for you. So it's really wonderful right now. We're thrilled to have all of you watching the show and listening to the show. So if you have a long car ride, just put on our podcast, because now we're not just on video, we're a podcast. And subscribe. Again, I keep saying that. Subscribe to us because that helps us with YouTube. It will keep the show alive. Special thanks to Riverview Studios. If you have any filming needs at all, check out their website. You will see and watch the other episodes. We have a lot of B-roll, as we call it, of the inside of this beautiful, eclectic studio populated by really talented people. RiverviewStudios.com is the website. They've been wonderful to us here at Guitar Tales. We have HD filming all the time. We have a great control room back there. The studios are beautiful, and the folks here are immensely talented. And one more time, a special thanks to Scott Guitarist Engel, because he's been connecting us with wonderful musicians from the Jersey Shore. And of course, tonight we have a wonderful, legendary guitar player from the Jersey Shore, Kenny Dubman. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Great to be here.
We're so happy to have you. You and I have been hanging out for about 2 hours now. I've watched you play guitar. I'm shocked that I'm even allowing a guitar to be in my lap right now because it's one of those I'm not worthy out of Wayne's World, but I'm really not. But I'm happy to have you here. We're all happy to have you here.
Good times, man.
So, you know, we have to get one thing out of the way before we get into the interview and let you start playing away on that beautiful SG of yours. We play a game called 6 Degrees of John Bon Jovi. How do you get us there?
All right. So it's back in the 80s, and I'm playing with my band Prophet. We're just about to go do our first record. I guess it's 1985, and we're playing at what was called Hunka Bunka then. It's now the Starland Ballroom.
Where's that?
Sayreville.
Okay, okay.
Starland.
Okay.
Yeah, so our singer at the time, Dean Fasano, was good friends with Richie Sambora. They had a duo together called Message. So Richie and John came to see us that night.
Okay.
Right? And so we did our set. They came back in the dressing room, and Richie was with my friend Tracy, and John was with Diane Lane at the time. I guess he was, you know, fooling around on his girlfriend or whatever.
Okay.
And yeah, they said to us, "Wow, that song with the two acoustics was just, we loved it. What is it?" And I said, "Well, it's called Slow Down." Wow, they just went on and on about how much they loved it.
So you actually, it's not even 1 degree, it's 0 degrees because you hung out with them backstage.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if you could call it hanging out, but you know, they were there.
You were there. That's wild.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Now, speaking of the old days, I was talking to Scott, right? You played at the Fountain Casino? You told me you saw...
We played the Prophet, when Prophet was a cover band.
Right.
Which it was up until '85.
Right.
We played the Fountain every Wednesday night.
Really?
Yeah.
So the question is,
Big room.
When I was 16 with my fake ID, looking like I was 11, would you have been playing there in like 1981, 1982?
Yeah, it was like 82-ish, 81, 82, exactly. That's
so
exactly
I've probably seen you at the Fountain Casino.
You might have, Rabbit.
Might have. A very famous Mattawan, New Jersey venue, right?
Yeah, Cliffwood portion of Mattawan. Actually,
Yeah.
you know, I lived in that area for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Aberdeen.
All right. Where do you live in Aberdeen?
17, the I section.
Okay.
I forget the name of the street, but all the streets are named.
Yeah.
You know.
I was an O section guy.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And then there's another famous guitar player out of Mattawan who is?
I don't know.
Steve Conti.
Oh, of course. I
Yeah.
love Steve. He's a great guy.
Yeah, and he
I'm
plays-
good friend. I'm friends with that whole family.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
Jennifer.
he plays
Jennifer
with the
used
New
to
York
cut my hair.
Dolls, among a million others. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an amazing guitar player, great songwriter, great singer,
Yeah.
great talent.
Yeah, very talented. Mattawan, except for me, is a wellspring of talent. Sorry. All right. So here's what I like to do. I want to really take a deep dive into your background. And you're the one, by the way, who talked me into holding your guitar. I've never held a guitar throughout a show, and this is gorgeous. But I want to take a deep dive into you, and we'll talk about gear in a minute.
Sure.
So how old were you when you first started playing guitar?
Started playing when I was 9.
Oh, wow.
Was really drawn to it a couple of years before that because my mom was a hippie.
Okay.
And she cranked Hendrix and Santana around the
Really?
house. Yeah, I mean, talk about two guys to really like influence a kid. And I was just like, wow, I want to do that.
So yours, it's interesting. So, you know, my little entree into rock, about 5 years age-wise later than you, and we're the same age roughly, was sort of rebellious with regard to the parents, but you're actually respecting and emulating what mom liked.
Yeah, I had an enabler in my mom.
That's right.
Should have gone to medical school.
But that's really cool. So you had true rock and roll playing through your house growing up.
Yeah, and just to offshoot on that a little bit, at one point, my mom is awesome. I mean, she's the best. She packed me and my two brothers, I have twin brothers, put us in a station wagon and drove us to Sam Goody at Livingston Mall. When their Sam Goody was a record store.
Right.
Walked us in there and found this the sales guy with like long hair and a beard and stuff, and said, just load us up with all the best stuff. Wow. No idea what was going to happen. So we ended up with UFO, Uriah Heep, Queen, Rush. I mean, stuff at Deep Purple. And we're little kids. And we brought these records home, and it was like starving people sitting down to a buffet. You know, because we had a taste of like rock, but like unwrapping and playing these records on our shitty little, Juliet all-in-one turntables. It was like the keys to the kingdom, man.
That's amazing.
It was just a stunning revelation like you couldn't believe for a bunch of kids.
So your mom is being emotionally generous because she could have pushed on you. I mean, what she's giving you is just 10 years later than what she enjoyed. So she's enjoying stuff in the mid-'60s, and she's giving you sort of late 70s, early 80s stuff. And that's generous because if she were selfish, she'd be pushing the Hendrix and the Beatles. And not that that's anything other than great, but she's giving you sort of the half generation later music.
Yeah, well, she had no idea what she was giving us by bringing us there and having the sales guy load us up with all this stuff. But I mean, like 70s guitar rock, man.
And that's fantastic.
70s is still, to me, the best era of rock.
It's the best songwriting.
Best songwriting.
Yeah.
Guitar was just in a ferocious, like, it was still in a birthing mode, And
it's sort of from 60s to 70s, the people in the 70s cared about the world, right? But in the 60s, it's all about, it was all about helping the world. And then we jump to the 70s, and it's like, yes, we care about that, but we also care about, the sound of the music we're creating. And the stuff that was going on in the studios, sound-wise, was unbelievable in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on for 2 hours about 70s rock, but like 60s to me, until you get into a certain point, just had a very jangly, high-endy sound. Like people like the Byrds and everything is, production was awful for the most part.
Right.
And then Hendrix came along, and then the first Zeppelin album came along in '68, and that's when the shit really started hitting the fan. And that set the tone for 70s guitar rock.
Oh, it's unbelievable what they did. And then you listen, like every so often I'll throw on the 70s channel, and it really survives.
It sure does.
Yeah. So you're listening to this music, and you're 9 and 10 years old, roughly?
Well, at that point, I was we were like 11-ish, and my
Okay.
brothers were 9. I had been playing guitar for a couple of years at that point, but never really getting, what I wanted. I'd hear stuff on the radio. We listen to AM radio.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You're listening to probably ABC and NBC.
Yeah, so, I mean, every time something cool came on, like Alice Cooper School's Out, or Who's That Lady by the Isley Brothers, or China Grove, anything that was like guitar-centric, we were like, yes, that song again. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely guitar, and heavier guitar was the magnet for both myself and both my brothers.
Right, because if you look at at the very end of the 60s, the heavier guitar was starting to kick in, but at the beginning, it really wasn't quite as heavy. But the very end, you've got Jimmy, I guess he's playing Sun, right? And he's locking himself in a room with 10 and experimenting with feedback. You got the Kinks who are slicing up their speakers to create really cool sounds. You've got...
well, it was really, the late 60s, the guys that really turned it around, obviously Hendrix.
Right.
But then you have like Clapton, Beck, and Page, the 3 Yardbirds guys.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them on their own were just ridiculous, with the stuff they were coming out with.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it was those 3 guys and Hendrix that really pushed the movement forward. Beyond agreed. So let's talk about you. So you're 11, 12 years old. I can't even remember, probably 7th or 8th grade, something like that, where that would And then
put
this
you.
happened. I haven't played anything yet.
Yeah,
So.
which is exactly why I don't feel qualified to be holding a guitar in front of you, but yes. So you're like, I keep doing that throughout the show. So 10, 11 years
I've been
old.
encouraged to do so, so I'm
By
going
me, yeah, right. So you're 10, 11 years old. Is the guitar starting to speak to you yet, or is it more you just taking lessons? Like, when is it becoming sort of pushed into your soul?
Yeah, I took lessons for like 3 years, but I didn't have rock teachers.
Right.
So I'm sitting there with a Mel Bay book. Anybody who doesn't know, Mel Bay is like the
Yep.
beginning
Yeah.
book for all, people learning how to read. And it was just stuff straight out of that. And I just wanted to play rock. And
So-
I didn't know how to get there.
Where were you getting lessons from?
Just like local guys. I had some great teachers.
Bernadine Music in Matawan? Do you ever go there for with
No,
Dennis?
because I grew up in West Orange.
Oh, okay. I know you were in Matawan for some time, but okay.
So ultimately, I mean, I stumbled upon it myself when I got my first electric guitar.
Which was what?
It was like I don't know, it was like some shitty knockoff. It was a Zimgar, ZIM-GAR.
Oh, I never heard of that.
One of my brothers and I used to kid that it was, built by some master luthier in the Italian Alps. And like, we had this thing that nobody knew was worth like $10,000. And you joke about it, but
Right.
I got that thing. I got an Electro Harmonics Muff Fuzz, little.
Yep.
It had a plug, a male plug that just stuck out from it, and I plugged it into my stereo. 'Cause
Okay.
That's what we did back then.
Right,
It had a
right.
mic input, and then you plug the guitar into it. And as soon as I
Wait, I'm going to cut you off. Did you mess with your stereo to create? So you got fuzz
No.
out of your stereo? No.
No, but I used the distortion device. You'd plug that in, and all of a sudden,
Right.
you went from an acoustic guitar to this. And that's when the shit really started
Right,
coming
because-
together. Because I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for.
Yes, the freedom of fuzz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and it started to take off from there, and I started to figure out rock stuff off records. And honestly, the guy that really unlocked rock guitar playing for me was Ace Frehley on
Really?
the first Kiss Alive album. Because he was doing like Jimmy Page was doing, but he was doing it slow enough for a kid to pick it off.
Oh, that's interesting.
So all the patterns, like, anybody that plays guitar knows that pentatonic scales just go up in patterns up the neck.
Right.
Like this being the predominant one.
Right.
And Ace Frehley. And it was slow enough, and sooner or later you're going to stumble on it, and you go, wow, that's just a fingering pattern that sits right here on the neck. And then from here you go. Then you go up here, Jimmy Page. And once you start linking up those boxes and you go like, now I know how to do that because it sits right in this little spot.
Right.
Then it starts cascading and it just starts coming together really fast.
Where was your rhythm guitar playing through this? Were you immediately gravitating toward lead guitar as opposed to rhythm?
Yeah, well, rhythm guitar just it wasn't hard, You
Right.
just whatever. That was obvious, after a while it became like,
Right.
the power chord, the root, fifth root. Most rock then was built entirely
1-4-5.
was
Right.
built entirely on that.
Right. So in terms of your growth as a young guitar player, it was not. You were immediately attracted to the lead. You kind of
yeah.
saw it almost mathematically.
It
right?
was the lead that really that struck, and I said I wanted to do it because that's where really all the expression is coming from, the bends and the feedback and
Right.
it's like, wow.
Now, where were you socially? So let's put you at like 12, 13 years old. Think of the high school scene. Where would you put yourself in the various social groups?
I was a pothead,
Okay.
not really chasing girls, smoking weed and holing up my bedroom,
Right.
playing guitar.
Right.
And that's spent a lot of time doing that. So
And where did that put you in terms of like did guitar play any role in how you viewed the social strata in your high school, or was it independent of that?
it was not even really a factor.
It was-
I mean, by junior and senior year, I think I played a couple high school dances, and people started to go like, "Oh, what's going on there with him?"
Right,
Holy
right.
shit, I never even knew.
But that's not what attracted you.
No, it was strictly. It wasn't. I want to be a rock star. It was like I want to play guitar, man.
And that's like, if I think of my little journey where I'm just a part-time little bit guitar player, mine was more social. and I enjoy the music, but it wasn't as musically pure as yours. So your attraction to the music was actually the music, not social acceptance or anything like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I didn't give a shit about all that other stuff.
Honestly,
yeah.
that's a healthy, in my view anyway. That's a healthier attraction.
Well, it's
to
going to
music.
it's going to keep your head much more focused on the music than the girls and the partying and everything, which
Right.
will all come later.
But
once you
and
learn how to play.
well, it's like if you have a conversation with a billionaire or a multimillionaire, they'll tell you that they had an attraction to the business they built, and the money came second.
Exactly.
It was secondary to
Do what
that.
you love and the money will follow is the saying.
Right, and for you,
Not always true, but
right, exactly. But for you, the musical progression came because the social acceptance came because your primary purpose was musical.
right, and all that didn't happen until I started playing in a bar band,
Okay.
and that's where I was like, wow, like holy crap. There's this whole other side with
Right.
partying and girls and all that.
So let's put you in like junior year in high school. Are you in bands yet? Are you starting to play out?
Oh yeah, I started playing in bands when I was 14.
Okay. So you remember the names of your
Yeah,
bands?
yeah, and I didn't name this band. It was a stupid name. The band was Lush, Lush. Somebody else came up with it, and they were like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "That's stupid."
It's good and bad at the same time.
It's dumb.
It's
But
cheesy.
we were stuck with it, so.
Yeah. And was that a cover band? Any
Yeah,
originals floating around?
No, it was all covers.
So you're playing all 70s, early 80s
Yeah,
rock.
that band, we did a bunch of Kiss, a bunch of Aerosmith, a little bit of Rush,
Okay.
We think we did like 8 Kiss songs. It
Really?
was very Kiss-centric, yeah.
So
So don't forget, that's when Kiss Alive, the first one, was out. And
I remember that very well.
took the world by storm.
It did. And it's interesting because I'm a kid who was gravitating towards the Who, the Clash, bands like that. I rejected Kiss back then, and we're almost the same exact age. So it's interesting because you're appreciating what Ace is doing on guitar.
Not only the guitar playing, but if you strip away all the makeup and the fireworks and everything, those are great songs.
They're well written.
They're so catchy and they're kick-ass hard rock. I mean,
Yeah.
like what kid is not going to like that?
No, you're right. And I was so anti-Kiss because I felt like they were inauthentic in my stupid 8th grade and 9th grade
Which is
mind.
so funny because it's so far from the truth if you strip everything away and listen to the songs.
They're great
awesome.
songs. We did, one of my bands did Rock and Roll All Night. It was one of my favorite songs to play. It's a great song.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But for a 19-year-old kid playing in college, it worked.
Yeah.
And no, I don't know how to play it now, but I sort of vaguely remember it. But the crowd loved. Oh, you're about The D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's simple as you can get.
Right, right. And you're right, they're great songs. And if you strip away the brilliant marketing of that band, underneath
Genius.
Genius, they had great vocals and great songs.
Yeah.
It's true. I never thought of it that
Paul
way.
Stanley, awesome singer.
Yeah.
What a great rock voice.
Oh, perfect. And then Gene Simmons is a brilliant marketer.
Yep.
Beyond brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. So you're in 11th grade, you're doing that. Senior year.
Senior year is when I joined Prophet and actually started playing with them.
So they were a pre-existent band.
Prophet was like the guys that put it together tried a couple times.
Okay.
And it finally, like when I joined the band, it was Scott the bass player and Joe the keyboard player were the nucleus.
Okay.
And then I joined and they got a solid singer and drummer, and then we were able to get out and play.
A one guitar band?
Yeah.
So you had a lot of responsibility in that band.
Yeah, but we did a lot of the covers we did were way above my head when we started. We were doing Kansas and Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like I'd never played any of that. I was a Kiss and Aerosmith guy.
So what kind of Yes songs were you doing back then?
Heart of the Sunrise.
Oh, really?
Roundabout. Siberian Catrue. I mean, stuff that
Really?
was way over my head.
A roundabout, we all learned. We all learned the what was it?
Yeah.
That's about as far as I got with it.
Yeah, that was
But-
a high school staple.
Yeah.
That riff.
Yeah, we all learned that one. But so, what other stuff did you do from Yes? Siberian Catrue is not an easy song.
Yeah, I think that's
Yep.
is that one right?
Yep.
Screw the rest of it.
And
up,
then
sorry.
Heart of the Sunrise. I
Yeah.
used to try. I could never do that.
And I don't know how we did it, but we used to go on stage, and we partied hard, that band. We were like notorious for being one of the hardest partying bands
Oh,
on the
really?
circuit. And we get up and we play that kind of stuff. I still don't know how we did it.
Well, you know what's funny? Heart of the Sunrise is sort of YYZ-ish
Yeah.
on some level. And you guys pulled it off like, I mean, I can tell you play it well, but the whole band was tight with that?
Yeah.
That's
you
a
had to be
hard
tight.
song.
We were like, yeah, that band was very, if you didn't pull your weight, you were out.
Right, right.
So it was, yeah.
And you're doing that alone. There's no one playing rhythm behind you. So you have a keyboard player to help you a little bit filling the sound.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff is keyboard centric. So a
That's
lot of
true.
times it was me that was taking the back seat. But then we did hard rock too. We did Van Halen. We did Scorpions. I mean, it was hard rock and progressive rock.
Okay.
And we just mix them up all night.
And that's really ambitious. And that's good training for when eventually you're going to progress into writing your own stuff, I would think. So that's senior year. What happens after you graduate from high school?
Graduated, I just went on full time with that band. Started playing 5-6 nights a week.
Oh, really? Now,
Yeah.
what areas geographically?
All over Jersey, Staten Island, a little bit in upstate New York, a little bit in Pennsylvania. New York metro area, Brooklyn, Queens.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
a big deal back then. And then when the drinking age went from 19 to 21, I want to say it was 83 or 84, the whole scene just took a shit. Done.
Yeah.
Because it was a thriving club scene.
Well, you and I are actually, you survived it in New Jersey. You're
Yeah.
just old enough. It kept running away from me as I would go from 18 to 19, 19 to 20. If you remember, they kept raising it 1 year at a time, and I kept looking, and it wasn't there
Yeah,
for me.
from 18 to 19 and then 19 to 21.
Right. So that was killing the bar scene for you guys,
Yeah,
or at least harming it.
It destroyed it. But at that point, we were getting ready to run off and do our first record. So
How did you segue? So you're learning. I had a great conversation with someone today about cooking, of all things. And I love to cook, except I don't like to follow recipes. And I really believe that I'm not as good a cook as I would have been if I learned other people's recipes, and that was the same way I approached guitar. So you did the right thing, so you're learning from the people who were really good at it. So by the time you're ready to start writing, you've learned from the masters because you've performed their songs.
yeah, that's true. And speaking of writing, I was a writer with Prophet, but I wasn't the primary writer.
Okay.
Primary writer was Scott Metaxas, great, amazing songwriter. And sometimes I'd bring in a chorus or something like that, and we'd finish them together. But he was a guy that could walk in with a whole song.
Okay.
A great song, too.
So when you did your shows with Prophet let's say, let me bring you to senior year in high school.
I'm going somewhere else with that songwriting thing, but let's
Yeah,
follow your...
I definitely want to explore that. And one of the great things about the show is we have the time to do it.
Excellent.
But so when you're a senior, is your show all covers, or are you throwing in a few originals?
No, there was no originals for a couple of years.
Okay, so if we fast forward just a little bit, when did Prophet start playing originals?
83-ish.
Okay.
I wanna say.
And you're in 81 from high school?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how would you mix that in with the crowd? Because the crowd wants to hear the covers, I would think, and you have to figure out a way to allow them to enjoy.
No, you just play them.
And how would the crowd react?
They liked it.
Well, that's
Because it
great.
was, we were gonna step out there and play something we didn't think was pretty good.
Right.
I mean, obviously songwriting evolves. You get better as you do it.
Yeah.
But the first stuff, it was decent.
Okay.
It was good enough. We didn't do a whole lot of them, so it was never an issue.
Right. And then so you would put maybe, I don't know, in two sets over the course of a night, 5-6 originals.
No,
something.
not that many.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you would say
It wasn't a big thing when we were a cover band.
Okay.
We weren't really we went from being a cover band that did an original here and there, went and
Okay.
did our record, and then we just stepped out. We never did covers again.
All right, so let's fast forward a little bit further. So when and how did you segue from being a cover band to being an original band?
You leave the club circuit to go make a record, and when you come back, you're not doing covers anymore.
Wow. So were you scared when you did that?
No.
That's great.
No, because it's everybody's goal is to make a record.
But were you nervous as to whether or not the public would accept you? Because
No.
Okay.
No, because we weren't going back to our former life as
it was
a
a
cover
brand
band.
new. Well, but see,
And we
yeah.
weren't really playing, because you can't just be original band and just go back to playing your schedule in the clubs.
Yeah.
Because now you have a handful of songs.
Right, but you're walking out of a safe place where you can go to Club and A or Fountain Casino.
This is my safe space right here.
Right,
with you.
right. I'll take it. So you're walking out of your safe place. I know this is safe here, but we're still 30 years ago right now, right? Ish. So you're going out from a place where you know that if you play, I don't know, give me a song that was a popular song cover, that is.
I hear what you're saying, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like that.
Okay.
It wasn't like that because first of all, the club scene was dead anyway because the drinking
Okay.
age changed. So there was no thing to go back to really.
So did that make it easier to make or you would have made the transition anyway?
Yeah, it was not a thing. Like we didn't want to be a cover band anymore.
Okay. And I just saw online someone was talking about Zepp. They were critical of first they were talking on Facebook. There was a Pete Townsend interview. Then they were talking about Zepp. A lot of those bands started with covers too.
Everybody starts with covers.
Right. So
nobody steps out and says, "Well, some people maybe do that now." But when I was coming up, there was no like, "We're going to play out and we're just doing originals."
So this.
I mean, yeah, I guess maybe like in CBGBs, the punk bands and stuff, they were all doing that. But
Right.
I mean, in the general rock scene, everybody, you come out of high school, you're playing dances, and you could become a cover band, and then you evolve from there.
So you always saw this as and it makes sense, a very natural progression. We'll sort of, get our act together, literally and metaphorically, right?
Yeah, because you're not gonna. I mean, how far are you gonna go as a cover band?
Right. Okay. So sometime like late '80s is when you started switching from cover to originals.
Well, we did our first record in '85, and
Okay.
we came back, and there was really no scene. There was no tour for us. So my bass player and I took a little diversion and started a different cover band just to keep busy. But that's a whole other. That was the Edgar Cayce band. That's a rabbit hole that we can go down and never come out of.
I have to start a little bit. I love Edgar Cayce. I've been to the Edgar Cayce Museum. Are you an Edgar Cayce fan?
I'm very aware of who Edgar Cayce was.
Yeah.
But the reason that we chose to name the band that is because we were a prophet, and then we came home and
That makes sense.
Prophet was sleeping. Edgar Cayce, known as the sleeping prophet.
Correct.
So
Right.
It was a goof, It was like a little.
I love that. Yeah, but when on my YouTube journey for you, I thought, I have to chat with him about Edgar Cayce because I've read many of his books.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Great.
he was an amazing healer. He would go into trances. He would meet with people, and for anyone who doesn't know who Edgar Cayce was, he was mostly known as a healer. He would meet with people that had ailments that the medical community couldn't figure out, and he would go into a trance and, talk. He would talk to the patient and then put himself into a trance.
Right.
And when he would come out of it, he would have these crazy herbal and natural remedies that would more often than not greatly help the patient.
And he's the most
crazy.
the most the most well documented psychic in history.
Yeah.
And he's got a museum at Virginia Beach.
Yeah, amazing guy.
All right,
An amazing story.
So I will pull us back from that rabbit trail. So now with Prophet, you're doing the originals, right? Not with the Edgar Cayce band.
Yeah.
Okay.
With Prophet. And
All right.
Prophet wasn't playing that much. We do a show here and there. And
right.
Edgar Cayce just kind of took on a life of its own because if you're not getting tours playing originals, you're sitting
gigs.
around on your ass.
You're right. So you're doing gigs with Edgar Cayce. You're starting to let your creative juices flow through Prophet now, which is a different entity than it was just a few years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was your songwriting responsibility and opportunity with Prophet in the early days?
Whatever I wanted it to be, really. I would just, come up with ideas. But songwriting, me writing stuff then is entirely different than what became of me current day writing songs. This is what I'm doing now is like, what I'm doing now, I feel like I figured out, like, this is how you write a song. Back then, I was a guitar player writing guitar parts and trying to turn them into songs, as many guitar players do. That's what we as guitar players do. We come up with the riff. You're like, I got a song idea. That's a riff. That's not really a song idea. You'll create a song around that.
Around the riff.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you conceived it, the riff was the primary part.
Right.
And you added the most important parts, which are like the chorus and the vocal melody and the lyrics and everything like that, as a second thought to your riff.
Right.
That's a guitar player thing.
Right, and it's an inorganic way to express a feeling or an emotion.
And listen, it's fine.
Right.
But that's the way I would write back then. Now when I write, it's like it's a vocal melody over chord changes. It's a concept idea. I'll sit down, pick up a guitar, and just sing a couple lines. That's really, to me, songwriting.
Well, the other thing is, like on some level, maybe you need life to kick you in the ass a little while so you can.
And
have
then
something
there's
to
that.
say. Yeah.
Which definitely, yeah, I've been through a lot, as a lot of people have.
Right.
And it was when I cleared all that song ideas started to come to me again. But they came entirely differently, as I just described.
Right.
Not as guitar riffs.
So I think what I want to do right now is I want to fast forward us a little bit because I want to have enough time to talk about your current songwriting. So how many years were you with Prophet where you did, I think, 4 albums maybe?
We did 3, but after the second one, it just became like a diaspora, you know what I mean? Like 88, we released Cycle the Moon, which we were still like full steam. We were being managed by a guy named Noel Monk who managed Van Halen.
Okay.
We just called him up one day.
Really?
And said, hey, we want you to hear our stuff. And he was like, well, send it to me. And he called us back saying, I love what you're doing. Why don't you come out to LA? And we did. And we made a record with him. He was great.
Okay.
Great. Super nice guy. But again, we were fighting a losing battle because that was 88 and it was hair metal.
Okay.
Anything with keyboards was not considered heavy enough.
Right, right.
So we struggled with that. And in 91, we released another record just kind of on our own called Recycled. Added Dave DiPietro, a good friend of mine, on guitar.
Okay. What was his role musically? Rhythm, fellow lead guitar?
Fellow lead.
Okay.
He's an insanely good guitar player. Ironically, I'm playing with him again. He's back in my live band now for the shows I'm doing my own stuff now.
Okay.
Full circle.
That's really cool.
So yeah, we did that record, and just like it was getting to the point where everyone could feel everything, just the steam was running out.
And you've already got well over a decade under your belts at that point.
Yeah, that was about a decade at that point.
Okay.
So yeah, after I really like Recycled because it's a guitar record and there's a lot of trading off, and I like the songs. But again, no muscle behind it, so it wasn't going anywhere.
And what does that mean, no muscle behind it?
Nobody in the industry behind you.
Okay. Okay. So you don't mean artistically no muscle. You mean marketing, support-wise.
Management, label, yeah.
Okay. So what was it like, say, early 90s? What was sort of the template on how you would try to achieve success? You put out a great album. All the elements of the songs that you want and need are there. What did you need for management and promotion? And maybe what didn't you get, or maybe what wasn't out there?
So the early 90s, don't forget, is when Nirvana and Pearl Jam.
Right, so the whole grunge thing is kicking in.
Yeah, so at that point, rock is dead, like The Who said.
Yeah.
Our version of rock
Right.
was dead. That was the death knell. Nobody gave a shit about guitar playing anymore.
They
You
still
just
don't. Yeah.
banged. I mean, that's the way Kurt Cobain played. Great singer, great songwriter.
But not a strong
Amazing,
guitar player.
but not a guitar player, and neither was Pearl Jam. So guitar playing no longer mattered. And I guess it was around 93 that I was just like not feeling it at all for music at all.
Really?
Anymore. Yeah. And that's when I started gravitating down a whole other rabbit hole, which was getting my captain's license, starting a charter fishing business, and that became my thing. Like the sea, being at sea, became the love.
Well,
and I did that for a long time.
That's an artistic expression. On some level.
I just like to fish.
Yeah.
But you're out there, you're hunting every day is what you're doing.
Right. Do you still do that?
Not as a business, but I have a small boat, and I just
for joy.
It's hard to get me off of it. Let's put it that way. To attend to my life's responsibilities.
Right. So you've got this journey. So what years are you primarily? Let's say what years were you vocationally a fisherman before you segued back into being music full time?
Let me see. Well, I started getting pulled into that in the early 90s. I got my captain's license in 97 and started that business.
Right.
And there was other stuff during that period of the 90s. I cut my hair and got a real job for a couple of years.
Right.
That totally sucked. Ironically, I'm back doing the same thing now, but it's all good now. It's fine.
Right. You learn a lot when you hit 50. You get an appreciation for all sorts of things.
Yeah, you sure do.
Yeah.
So in 97, I started the charter business, and I was still playing music to support myself. I was teaching. I had a ton of students. I was
Right.
doing weddings. I was doing acoustic duo gigs, whatever I could do, and building the charter boat business.
Right.
And once the charter boat business could stand on its own, I quit the wedding band. I quit teaching, and it was just full blown charter fishing.
Now, did you get rid of any of your equipment, or was it still sort of hanging out in your home?
No, it was, I kept my guitars.
And would you still play? When you're doing it, would you come home and play? What was it?
I didn't really, here and there. I'd still do some cool gigs, but my heart was not in it, was not into the creative end of music at all.
What about the playing? So if you're still playing gigs, it seems like part of the fire is still there.
Yeah, some of the fire was still there, but a lot of the gigs, it became more of a chore to go out and play.
So you weren't emotionally getting satisfaction or joy out of it at that point.
At some points on stage, like if we were cooking,
like moments, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that would be great, but just like I was detached from the creative process at that point.
Right.
So everything else was just like, I got a gig tonight, but I really don't feel like going.
Right. And you would do it because you had to do it.
I do it, for the money or just because, it was something to do.
But in the thick of it, you might get those moments where you're in sync with the band and one of your leads is searing through.
Because playing guitar was what I did my whole life. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, but it wasn't until I had my reawakening to creativity, so to speak, again.
Yeah.
And that happened in 2014. And once I started really getting into writing and stuff again, then all the cylinders started firing again. And I just didn't give a shit about anything else at that point.
That's all right. So I want to talk about that. Before we do it, let's talk about our two friends we brought with us, and then I want to jump into that.
Yeah. So
you've got, this thing is gorgeous.
This beauty here is a 2013 Gibson SG Original. Now, the term original was for this model for this year. And it's a reproduction of the original 1961 SG Les Paul.
It's beautiful. I mean, every part of that guitar is beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome. When I saw it, I fell in love with it. So yeah, this is not a custom shop guitar. It's not a high end. This is like a Gibson USA.
Okay.
It was probably under $2,000 when it sold new.
Right.
And a lot of the SG aficionados on all the chat rooms and all that on the interwebs talk about this 2013 model as being, at that time, was the best knockoff Gibson ever did of the original 61 SG Les Paul. And I love the vibrola. I don't use
gorgeous. That's the first thing I noticed.
See, I keep this up here. I don't even touch it. I just like the way it looks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds ridiculous.
And it sounds great. You're playing through an orange.
Yeah,
right?
that little orange is, what a great little lamp.
Oh, it's great. And you got mother of pearl on the neck, I guess. You got mother of pearl on your vibrato, mother of pearl on, I guess, on your machines.
I don't know.
That's a pretty guitar.
Yeah, I love this guitar.
So what is your primary function for that guitar? Does it go out with you all the time?
Not all the time. I got a lot of guitars now, and my go-to is a Les Paul.
Okay, and I saw online you might like Fender, but you're a Gibson guy, right?
Yeah, I love Fenders, but yeah, I'm a Gibson guy.
Yeah.
I have 2 Tellys and 2 Strats, and I love them.
What do you like better, the Telly or the Strat?
Tellys.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They have a cooler sound.
They have a low-end honk that the Strats don't have.
But the bridge has that weird sort of, that goes right around the edge. Do you have issues with that, with the way the bridge? You don't care. You don't care.
Every guitar is its own animal.
Right.
And when you pick it up, you have to know that's what you're picking up.
Right. And there is that Telly sound. I mean, I was always a Strat guy, but that Telly sound is really special. It just sort of slices through everything.
Tellys are awesome. And the thing about Tellys that kind of gets lost on a lot of people because they think they're twangy.
Yeah.
They have a ridiculous thumpy bottom end.
Right.
Like way more than Strat.
Yeah.
And that's why guys that dig Tellys more than Strats, that's kind of why.
Right. So that guitar, you'll play Gibson more than Fender overall by a lot, right? Or no?
Yeah, I just lately I'm not even really picking up a Fender at a show.
Okay.
I will though, but because now I'm just kind of getting my feet wet with a full band playing my own stuff live again.
Right.
So
right.
I want to be as comfortable as possible. So it's generally just a Les Paul.
Okay. And then this thing, I love this. I can't put it down. That's why partly because you suggested it and partly because I can't put it down. This is a Gibson.
Yeah, that's a Gibson Songwriter. Songwriter is the model, even though for some reason it says Studio on the
Right.
on the little thing on the headstock there.
Right.
Gibson Songwriter. A friend of mine went to Nashville a few years ago, and he came back up and did a couple of gigs. He goes, I asked him how it was, and he said it was great, but I spent every dime that I made playing live on this guitar, and he hands it to me, and I was like, wow. It had the most compact feel of any acoustic guitar I've ever picked up.
Yeah.
It feels like an electric guitar. Like the neck feels like
it plays
a short
itself.
scale. So
It's effortless.
When the time came, I got one of my own, and I just adore that thing.
It's beautiful, and it's electric.
Yeah.
So you got to pick up in it. Most these days,
most
I guess.
are these days.
Okay. And it's got, look at the beautiful woodwork on the back. You got some guy playing around inside here. I could hear that, but you said it's not a pick, right?
No, it's a broken off ball end of a string, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's always going to be the case.
It's got beautiful machine heads on it. This is really, it's a very playable, easy guitar.
Yeah, I love it.
No, it's great. So I want to talk a little bit about now. So from 2014 to the present, you're writing again. How does that feel?
It's the greatest feeling on the planet, I have to tell you.
Yeah.
The only thing I love as much as writing songs now is my kid. Honestly, those two things. I mean, it's her or when a song comes together. Those are the two things that really just, light my fire. But it's the greatest thing. I find it hard to find words to talk about how important it is to me now. But it's just become my whole world. Like, what I care about is writing songs and recording songs and going out and playing them in front of people and getting reactions and having people say, wow. Like, it's so much more about songs now than guitar playing. The guitar playing is just the icing that goes on afterwards.
So talk to me about perspective. Like life experience, I would think gives you an artistic ability to look at life and create something that you couldn't have created in your 20s because you wouldn't have that perspective.
That's absolutely correct. Without getting into the gory details, I had a lot of tough years, and when I got free of all that, and I was really like living a peaceful life for probably a year and a half.
Okay.
That's when the song idea started to come.
Right.
And like I was saying before, it wasn't a guitar riff; it was a song idea. It was like about something.
Right.
A chorus and a hook, and building the song around that instead of a guitar riff. And that's still, I just took that, and that's the way I write now.
So what's your process, if there is one? Will you get hit with the melody, the lyrics? What hits you first, if there is something consistent about that?
It kind of is consistent. A lot of what's been happening lately is I'll just wake up with like a lyric idea hook over a couple chord changes, like literally just wake out of a sleep with it.
Right.
And if I don't go downstairs and grab the guitar and then go back to sleep, it's going to be lost. So I have to peel myself out of bed, put my phone on record and put it down. Sometimes the ideas just come to me when I'm doing nothing. When I'm doing some mindless thing like, out for a run or making dinner or something. Like, wow. Well, where did that? It literally comes out of nowhere.
I think it comes when your mind is at rest.
It does.
And then like I said it a few minutes ago. If life is kicking you in the ass for a while, and you sort of find out, thankfully, luckily, on the other side of life kicking you in the ass, you could sort of process it, and you could bring more to the table.
Yeah, a lot of what came out of me was, songs about
those
tougher times.
Yeah. And there's some, like I've heard, it's funny, when I was in my 30s, I'm a lawyer by day, and I remember the head of our old firm used to talk about the beauty of one's 50s, and it really does give you perspective because you've still got a lot of vitality left. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you have perspective, you have some wisdom, and I think it can really be a wellspring of creativity for you if you can look back on those years and say, what did I learn from it? What can I draw from it?
Yeah, no doubt. And I will tell you that, since I hate the term "living your best life" because it's so stupid and corny, but
Although it's not.
I just hate the way the words are couched.
It is corny, yeah.
But since I started writing again, since
Yeah.
this came back on me in 2014, it has definitely been the best period of my life ever.
You know what's cool? That you can actually point out a specific time and year. You know what I mean? Like, you're not saying, well, over a course of time, I started writing.
No,
it's
it
2014.
happened. Happened like the stuff started coming on out of the blue fairly quickly.
Right.
Oddly, I guess it was just, shit inside got peaceful enough to allow whatever to start entering.
Now, was there a period?
Dragon.
This is great. I mean, was there a period of time when you weren't writing or otherwise engaged in sort of artistic creativity?
Yeah.
Like a decade-ish?
Like 20 plus years.
So I've always had a theory that if you look at some of the most prolific songwriters, I think they sort of blow it after a certain, they sort of use themselves up. I don't want to use a too colloquial expression. But if you've got this sort of quiescent period of, say, 10, 15, 20 years, all this life experience is building up inside you. And then what's cool for you or someone in your shoes is that when it finds its way, that's what it is. You're right. It finds its way through you with an outlet where there's a higher level of wisdom than what Ray Davies is writing when he's 19, let's say.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, talking about bands, running the course of their creativity. I mean, how many bands did you love the first two albums and afterwards it was just like,
They blow it. I mean, it's not that they blow it; they use it up.
Yeah, there is definitely a finite amount.
Yeah.
And it's generally, bands early in their career, artists earlier in their career. There's an entirely different scene now. It's not a scene, but it's a scene. Like, nobody makes money selling records anymore. So the whole, I have a hit record. I don't know, maybe in pop that still holds true with like Jennifer Lopez and all that kind of stuff. But as far as like people that are making like quality music, bands are writing their own stuff. They're putting it out on their own, and they're going on the road, and they're staying on the road because that's the only way they can make money.
Right.
Make money playing gigs and through merchandise. Merchandise is huge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the ability to just do what you want musically, there's no reins anymore. You don't have to fit. You don't have to do what the record company thinks you should do or your manager thinks you should do. You're creating. It's pure. It's pure creativity.
Right.
And when you're creating from the heart like that, and you get it out in front of people, people are going to know it. They're going to gravitate to you because
it's
pure.
funny. In this fucked up world we live in, there are some good things. Like, you're on a show right now that is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
We came up with the idea, and then we work with, Riverview Studios and all that. And we've decided we want a long show. We don't want like a little shitty, like 10-minute interview.
And you can do it because who gives a shit? You're not kowtowing to corporate sponsors.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So that's what I'm doing now. I'm writing songs.
Yeah.
I'm not writing with a partner. When I go and record them, I have a fabulous, let me give him a plug, Steve Diacutis. He owns Sound
Say that
Spa.
slowly, Steve.
Steve Diacutis.
Diacutis.
Yeah, he owns Sound Spa Recording in Edison, and I love working with him. Just he and I will co-produce, and I just do what I want. And I go out and I play them, and it's just all. I'm not doing it for any gain other than just because it makes me happy.
You're doing it because it's an authentic expression of what you're feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And that's super cool.
I'm feeling like my underwear's a little tight right now.
I was about to say that. Yeah. So you played a great opening song for us, and just to give you a sense of things, we got just a few minutes left in the show. Loved that opening song.
Thank you very much.
I loved your chord progression. I felt a little Pete Townsend floating around in there. I'm a Who fanatic, but your vocals were great. You got so much other stuff. You told me before we started you have just zillions of songs.
Yeah, they're building up. I really, really need to get back in the studio right now and do another record. It's a cost a fortune, and I don't have the time.
Right.
But a lot of other life keeps
money and time, right?
Yeah, money and time. The life keeps getting in the way, but I'll get there one way or another.
And so what do you? So like with that, what's the name of that song, by the way?
The song is called "Into Your Own," and like I was saying before, it's a perfect example of. The message of that song is that I'm out of something that sucked, and life is so much better now. And I have quite a few songs that preach that message. I've kind of got a lot of that out of my system at this point,
Right.
and I'm branching off into other weirder topics.
Well, the weird thing, another cheesy, overused term that I use all the time is gratitude. You know, and,
Yeah.
and there's a, you know, the funny thing is, as cheesy and overused as the word is, there's a reason. You know,
Yeah,
you sort of you find yourself past a hurdle, right?
Yeah.
And you could be filled with gratitude, and you could have appreciation for where you are now. And,
I do. I am, and I do. Trust
Right.
me. Every day I get up, I'm just happy to be alive, man.
Right. Because you could have been in a really bad place, but you're in a great place.
Yeah. Well, I was that. Yeah.
Give me a few bars of something else that you've come up with of late, if you don't mind.
Let me see. Let me narrow it down. Figures I'm on the spot. I can't think of. There's like 10 million songs.
Yeah.
His whole life is etched into his face.
That's good enough. I love that chord progression. But you've got so many of these great tunes. How many songs do you have? If I were to say to you, here's $1 million in the studio, how many songs are you ready to record right now?
Over 20.
Wow, that's crazy. And I think, consistent with my theory that I've had for some time, is that if you have a quiescent period where you're living your life but not necessarily sort of blowing through whatever amount of creative juice the universe gives you, there's a lot left. And you've got that right now, which is really cool.
I guess. I don't know what I've got. I don't analyze it. I just let it come to me, and I finish it. You know what I mean?
And what I love about this, you know, we're the same exact age, is you've got so much left in you because you got 20 years. No, you do, because you've got these 20 years where you're living your life, and it's informing your brain, it's informing your creativity, right? And now you're suddenly, 2014, you've got this like literally like it's a stop, like from here, no, and then from here, yes.
Pretty much.
You know, and so you're waking up and hearing, metaphorically and literally, all these great songs that are coming out. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, they're coming from somewhere. I don't know really, and like a lot of writers will tell you this. Where do your ideas come from? Where do they come from? We don't really know where they come from.
Right.
It's subconscious. Tony Joe White, who is a great, like this southern swampy guitar player, singer, writer, kind of had his own thing. It's such a cool guy. And he said that if you're writing songs for any reason other than, to be commercially successful, you're not, they're being given to you. You're just channeling them out.
That's beautiful. I love that thought, and I always feel like
it's true though.
Yeah, there's like, we're literally, this is a perfect way to end. So I feel like at some point there's a muse that sits on your shoulder and says, I'm going to give you this, and that's what you're getting. So I want to thank you. This has been a wonderful hour. Believe it or not, we've just burned through 60 minutes.
Amazing, and I hardly played guitar.
You played some great guitar. I want to thank all of our listeners. Don't forget, subscribe. Visit our YouTube channel, check us out on iTunes, and keep on the Facebook page because we're going to be posting more information about future shows. Go to riverviewstudios.com, you'll learn a lot, and guitartales.com. And I'm getting a sign from our cameraman. He wants you to play a little more for our outro. Dude, great fucking show.
Thanks, brother.
That was a great show.